Welcome to Soar Financially, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us here back in our studio in Vancouver. My name is Kai Hoffmann. I'm the @JR Mining guy on Twitter and the CEO of the Soar Financially Group. And today we have another company introduction for you. We're looking forward to this one for a while because we finally get to meet in person. It's at Reyna Silver, and I'm joined by Lauren Megaw. Name sounds familiar, doesn't it? And we'll get to the truth of the matter here in a few short seconds and discuss the company in detail. Before I switch over, hit that subscribe button. It tremendously helps us get guests on the program and expand our reach. Really, really appreciate it. But now let me switch over to my guest and Lauren. Lauren, it's fantastic to have you on and finally meet in person.
Yeah, great to meet you as well, Kai, and see this beautiful space. And you've been a show that I've watched for a bit, and excited to be a guest on.
Thank you. Yeah, no,
thanks for having.
We've seen each other before, but we haven't met.
Yes, it's one of those. You recognize someone, but then you're not sure if you met them on you've watched enough videos that you feel like you know them, or what's going on there.
Absolutely.
So great to meet you in person.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming in. Really appreciate it because you're not native to Vancouver as well.
No,
so
no.
glad it works out.
This happens to be the time period that I'm here.
Fantastic. Lauren, let's start. Let's talk Reyna Silver. Give us a quick, very high level overview, 30, 60 seconds. Who are you guys?
So Reyna Silver is an exploration company that is focused on what we refer to as an ore systems approach. So looking at the full big geologic system as a way to go after true high grade district scale projects, the kind of thing that would really move the market and make a dent in terms of demand. We have 4 big projects that meet that filter. We have an exploration team that has been serially successful with this style of exploration, which has allowed us to have the backing that we do and had the money that we need to go and drill and move these projects forward and make discoveries. And we've been doing that. So, hopefully people tune into what we're up to.
Absolutely. We'll see what we can, tickle out of them, right? You're doing this conversation,
let's
right?
See.
And let's see what we can get out of you as well. But before we dive deeper into the projects, they're in Mexico and the US, by the way. Let's catch us up on capital structure so we sort of all know, get the same sort of level before diving deeper.
Yeah, so we've got 150 million shares outstanding. As of today, we're at 18 cents. So with a little bit of math, that gets us to a market cap of around 25.5
That's quite
million.
Specific, yeah.
And so, we've got 5.4 million in the bank, Canadian. And, that's allowing us to move these projects forward. We've got strong institutional support, in part because of where 2 of our main projects came from. It's actually MAG Silver. And so I can go a little bit into MAG a little bit after this, but because we came from that and there was that amazing Cinderella story that MAG had in the 2000s, people look at Reyna Silver as sort of being the daughter of MAG, and wouldn't you want to get involved with us sooner rather than later? So that's given us the support that we need.
Fantastic. Yeah. Who are some of the shareholders?
So we've got Discovery Commodities, we've got Sprott, we've got Wartaw. MAG is about 10%. We have about 16 to 17 big institutions. So I apologize for anyone that I should be remembering off the top of my head, Terra Capital and things like that.
No, fantastic. That's a solid roster, right?
Yeah.
If you were to break it down, how much of your shareholding is institutional and retail?
Shareholding institutional, I believe, is around 20% currently. And then we have quite a few family offices. We're also, because our CEO is based out of Hong Kong, Jorge Ramiro Monroy, we have access to a lot of capital out of China, or not China, but Hong Kong in the East. And so we have a lot of really big family offices that are also significant shareholders as well. So we have those long-term plays built in with the, around 60% retail as well.
No, fantastic, because it's a share register you don't see often in a $25 million market cap company.
Correct.
All right, it's quite impressive, to be honest.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate it.
You have a lot of warrants, shares outstanding. You said 150. Any warrants options that could cap it?
We've got a whole series of warrants from previous raises. In total, if we were fully diluted, we'd be about 180 million shares outstanding. We've got 5 sets of warrants ranging from $30 to $1.75. And we'd be absolutely delighted for the $1.75 to be in the money. I think as anyone would be.
Yeah, absolutely.
'Cause that would suggest we make a big discovery and made all the shareholders happy.
Okay, no, fantastic. It's a bit unfair because I have the
You have
cap table here.
I know. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a test.
That's what I just thought, is like, this is a bit unfair because I'm cheating on it, but we need to get that on record,
Yeah.
right? So just to catch it all up so everybody's on an even level. $5.4 million, right?
Yep.
Let's talk about how you're spending it and what you've spent so far and where you're at right now. Exploration, right?
Exploration. So here's the thing about juniors. You know this. Most of the investors know this. Juniors, our value is discovery driven. Discovery is through the drill bit. And the question is how you can make that capital that you raise, set it up for the best success in terms of doing the good geologic work. And so, for instance, with our Botapilas project, we spent the last year, after we found major gold mineralization in Botapilas for the first time, we put a pause on drilling. We spent the last year doing structural studies, big sampling programs, deep geophysics, because that's the way to make sure that you're de-risking as much as you can, given geology. It'll always throw you a curveball here and there. But that's how you make sure your drill targets are strategic. And that's the approach that we take with all of our projects is, we're moving forward big projects. But how can we make sure that, we're giving our investors the best bang for the buck? And, with Botapilas, we just made a huge discovery, implementing that model and moving it forward.
How would you sort of break down the projects? Like you have 4 projects. I think one is in the US and the rest is more or less in Mexico.
So we have 2 projects in Mexico and 2 projects in the US.
Oh, you just joint ventured one.
We just joint ventured
That's unfair.
one.
Yeah, that just happened this week, earlier this week.
So now I'm testing you on this.
Exactly, right?
So, we've got the 2 projects in Mexico. One is historically Mexico's highest grade native silver district, or highest grade district, period. It was actually a native silver district. The only other ones really are things like the Kongsberg district in Norway or Cobalt in Ontario. Crazy district, super high grade silver. We went in, found high grade gold as well as more silver. And now we're finding more silver and moving that project forward. We also have one of the most famous districts in Mexico. The project's called Gigi. So the heart of the Santo Eulalia mining district. So I don't know if you're familiar with carbonate replacement deposits or CRDs.
Indirectly.
This is one of the biggest CRDs out there. And we know it produced 500 million ounces of silver from just half of the CRD spectrum. So the question there is, where's the missing half of the district? So that's what we're looking for there. And then we have the 2 projects in Nevada. Medicine Springs, which is in Elko County, which is about one of the best jurisdictions you can pick. The thing is just screaming, I'm a giant CRD at us from the top of its lungs. And then the other project that we just picked up as part of a joint venture with our sister company, Reyna Gold, is a stacked Carlin-style gold, silver, lead, zinc, CRD, and on top of that, a strata-bound nickel zinc. So, moral of the story with Griffin, if you just want to think about it, is gold plus silver and critical metals too. How do you not pick up a project like that? So we're delighted to pick up that project as well and kind of bring us to a nice, well-rounded stool. We believe in a portfolio versus a single project. The idea is if you have a single project, you're in a binary situation. You make or break on a single project. You can have a problem that can cause real problems for the company. Whereas if you have 4 projects, if you have success with one, you can move that forward. And then, down the road, you can maybe explore on the others as, the market shifts. So that's what we're doing is we're moving those projects forward until one of them shows us that they're the true bright, shiny star.
Interesting. Let's stay on Griffin for a while. Because I want to give us a recap of the joint venture deal.
Okay.
Because I asked you before we came in here to the studio, I was like, a joint venture with your sister company. Yeah. Right? So is that a fruit of the current market environment we're in, or are there other reasons?
So it's a combination of reasons. One, it's partially because of the market, but the market is also the reason why Griffin became available. This is one of those truly great exploration projects, the kind that only pops loose when the market's in the portion of the cycle that it's in right now.
Sorry to jump in, but who owned it previously?
So the vendor is called Golden Griffin Exploration. It was optioned out to Agnico, but when Agnico pulled back and sort of a lot of their exploration projects, it popped loose. And my dad has been going after this project for 15 years. He's wanted to, because it's an example of where people have been so focused on the gold. Yet there's these huge expressions of CRD mineralization. And so the idea behind the joint venture is that Reyna Silver, whose strength is really in that ore systems approach of exploration, looking at, these big structures or the plumbing, let's see how they all fit together and do a systematic, strategic, disciplined program there. We bring that. Reyna Gold brings Carlin advisors. Mm-hmm. So there's Tony Longo, who's a great Carlin geologist. My dad, who's a great carbonate replacement deposit geologist, put those pieces together. And so what it really allows us to do is Reyna Silver will run the exploration, but we can combine forces. We share a lot of the same advisors and really make sure that we make the most of that capital.
No, it makes a lot of sense.
Right? Yeah.
So where are you spending most of your money right now?
So right now, we're drilling at Medicine Springs. Mm-hmm. That will bring us to our total earn-in. So we'll have 100% optionality on that project, which will be fantastic. And that will bring us to 3 projects. So we own 100% Batopilas and Gigi. Mm-hmm. And so then that will get us essentially there with Medicine. And then we'll have the earn-in on Griffin. I think the whole deal... we'll take a couple of years to work through that. I think the whole deal to get to that 75% is like 9.5 over 6 years. Okay. I'll have to double check that number. Don't quote me. Oh wait, I'm on record. So
Yeah.
But that's sort of where we are there. So currently we're drilling at Medicine Springs. One of the surprising things is how much more expensive it is to drill in Nevada versus Mexico.
What's the price difference?
Almost 4x.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, Mexico drilling, you get really experienced teams. It's like a true profession where people are like really focused on being incredible drillers. I mean, not to say that that's not the case in the US too, but it's harder to get them as an earlier stage company than it is necessarily in Mexico. And, we have great drillers, all in sustaining costs, plus, overheads lower and things like that. I think the recent campaign all in was like $150 a meter in Batopilas. So, that versus, what you deal with in Nevada where,
I was talking to companies in the Yukon and it was like $1,100 a meter.
Yeah. So it's very different drilling. So like, it's one of those things where it's like, our expenditure isn't necessarily indicative of what our focus is, just because drilling in Nevada and moving those projects forward, they're more expensive than doing it in Mexico.
And it's US dollars too. And
exactly.
So, okay. Interesting. If you, I love that question because it's an unfair one.
Are you about to ask me which one's my favorite child?
Absolutely.
Okay. So here's the thing.
You've heard that one before, haven't you?
Yeah. Which one's my favorite project? Depends on the time of day.
Okay.
You wake up in the morning and you're like, oh my gosh, I just adore Medicine Springs. It'd be the coolest project. This thing is just, it's like a kid in the candy shop when you're out there. It's just feature after feature after feature, just being like, hi, I have the potential of being something really big. And then, later in the day, you're having lunch and you're like, no, it's Griffin. I mean, if we're right about Griffin, like, can you imagine having gold and silver and critical metals? I mean, talk about a remarkable economic combination. And then, you have a glass of wine in the evening and you're like, no, it's Gigi. Like, I grew up with the reason I fell in love with geology was my dad bringing mineral specimens home from the Santa Eulalia district. And like, most people grew up with like Cinderella stories. I grew up with like stories from the Santa Eulalia district. And wouldn't it be so cool to find the other half of the district, the next big portion of something so important at Gigi? And then as you're going to sleep, you're like, no, it's Batopilas. Like, it's just, you have a district where the main ore was native silver. 300 million ounces with an average grade of 1,500 grams per ton silver. And we've gone in there.
I thought it was a typo in the presentation, to be honest.
that's the average grade. Yeah. I mean, there were zones that were 75% silver. And it's just, and then you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh, Batopilas. And then you just go through it again. So to answer your question,
tough.
Depends on what time of day you ask me.
We should mention you're a geologist by trade. It might not have been, like, people might have gotten the idea. They might have picked that up by now, but you're a geologist by trade.
But by training, I'm a geo.
Yeah.
But I do investor relations because what gets me really excited is figuring out how to translate geology into English. Because honestly, I should have had a foreign language credit for geology. You learn like more new words in your first year of geology than you do learning a foreign language.
I still run around with a dictionary, pretty much.
Does that help you?
Not really.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's
half the stuff is over my head, I have to admit.
And so it's one of those things where I look at it and I go, it can be hard for investors who didn't spend years with their, nose in a book and looking at rocks to figure out some of these pieces. So how can I make it more approachable? Yeah. How can I get people that don't have that background to share the excitement that I do about what the geology is and sort of explain why we do this style of exploration that we do, which is really science-backed. Yeah. And why that could potentially be really value additive to investors.
I love the methodical approach you do. Like I've seen it elsewhere, but I've seen companies also just show up with a drill. I was like, okay, let's poke some hole in this thing, all right? Yeah. So I love the methodology. It's like I actually have patience as an investor, all right? So what you're doing, like now you're drilling Medicine Springs, but the others you've done a year long of sampling work and like proper geology work.
And it gives you, for instance, at Batopilas, we found an entirely new native silver vein in an area. It was a blind target, but between the sampling, the geophysics, and the structural work, we're like, we think there's possibly something in this area. And then we hit almost 6.5 kilos silver. And the thing about the Batopilas silver veins is they, historically what we have from the records is they would go from these tight structures of calcite with native silver, and then over a course of, 1 to 8 meters, they balloon out to have a native silver structure that's 1.5 meters to 2 meters wide, surrounded by massive silver sulfides for 30 to 80 meters and hundreds of meters down. Just these crazy, mind-blowing ore shoots. And so when you intersect something like this almost 6.5 kilos silver, like what we've done, recently, a new vein, an area that hasn't been explored, you go, okay, based off of historic data, in one way or the other, we're 30 to 100 meters potentially from one of these ore shoots. So we have another set of drill targets at Batopilas that are what we call Banda Este. So they're the east zone. They're a combination gold and silver from the work we've done. We're going to go drill those next. And while we do that, we're going to figure out what we need to do strategically to go after and see whether or not we've got some serious big potential in the silver zone. So
6.5 kilos. Awfully exciting.
I know. I mean, it's one of those things where like I know I can't get too excited about it because I would talk at warp speed, but yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, you put out some results from Batopilas just yesterday. Right?
Yeah.
I got all my days mixed up because Monday was a holiday, so I'm completely all over the place. But any more results coming out from there? Is we're always greedy. We always look for more. Did you put the full set out? Or?
We put the full set out for the silver zone. Okay. And then right now we put a pause on drilling because rainy season, hurricane season's a little bit busier this year. So we decided to take a pause on drilling. And then we will mobilize to Banda Este. So that silver gold zone where we were getting crazy gold results in our sampling, and that was based off of last year we discovered a new gold zone. I mean, going into a place where the Spanish were looking for gold, they found crazy grade native silver, and they went, I guess I could settle for this. I mean, I would settle for that too. Yeah. We stepped out of the historic district, and we found gold, and I don't mean like a little bit of gold. One zone ran 36 grams gold. Another zone was over 3.5 meters of over 8 grams gold. So if you use an economic underground cutoff of 2 meters at 8 grams, when you find that, you should figure out how it fits in. And so that's what we've done. That's what led us to these recent results. And, that's what's going to take us over to Banda Este after.
Technical follow-up question, because it popped in my head. Why 2 meters? It's the width of the scoop, right?
It's width of the scoop. It's also if you use Archie's rule. So Archie's rule from Archibald Bello of Noranda is essentially if something's economic, your net smelter recovery has to be at least 2 times operating costs. So to reduce so if you do the math, to reduce operating costs, it's the width of the scoop. Right. And then 8 grams is about sort of the cutoff before you start seeing really big spreads as the change in gold price goes and changes.
Interesting. Next, I don't know. That question popped in my head. I don't want to get too technical here, but I figure.
Hopefully, we're not too technical for people.
Why'd you say 2 meters? For me, it's okay. Maybe it's the width of the scoop, right?
Yeah.
So, since I have you, Mexican situation, like political situation, we have to talk about it. You're obviously an expert. I need to hear from you. Is like, how is that looking? Like, how is that affecting you in the targeting as well? Because where it is, no more open pit mines in Mexico.
So one of the beautiful things about silver in Mexico, particularly in the districts that we're looking at, they would be underground. We're also in Chihuahua, which is about as friendly as you can get for mining. It's also nice to be in really significant historic districts that have a deep history in mining. And then on top of that, there's a couple of things with the new mining law. One is it's not entirely sure. It has not settled out in terms of what it all means and what pieces are actually moving forward. There's a couple of pretty big court cases that are moving. And one of the aspects is the mining laws relative to sort of the Constitution in Mexico. And so there's a higher level that it has to reach. There's a lot of really interesting political things that came together for it to even pass in the middle of the night. And the other component is that we're going into election year. So unlike in, say, the US, where you can get reelected, Mexico's 1 term, 6 years. AMLO's terms coming to an end.
That was quick. For some reason, it felt just
quick.
Got elected yesterday.
Yeah. No, it's like, wait, was it really that soon? And it was. So, they just announced this week the 2 candidates. So you get, sort of the Morena candidate, which is AMLO's party, and then on the other side, sort of the opposition put out there a person who's pro-mining. So it'll be really interesting to see where things go. Things could be a little, it's something to keep in mind. There's going to probably be quite a bit of posturing on either side relative to it. Yeah. And then, a lot of it will come down to how the election goes. And then how the court case goes as well. Interesting,
because there was also issues with staking new ground in Mexico as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the beautiful things about, in some ways, it almost adds value to both Batopilas and Gigi, because, well, one, they're in districts where there's claims everywhere, so you just can't make new claims. Yeah. Is sort of the current interpretation on it. And so, the fact that we have those already locked in, established, and consolidated, I mean, we have both of them are pretty big districts that we have consolidated already. So that gives us a benefit almost in terms of like competitors with other with peers that have projects in Mexico, is that we've already got that all tied up.
Gotcha. Since we're on the topic of permitting, we got to jump to Nevada real quick. Since you're obviously drilling at Medicine Springs, I'm not too worried about that. But Griffin, what's the situation there? Plan of operations?
It came with permits.
Fantastic.
It came with drill pad permits. It came with NOIs. I mean, the coolest thing about this project is how much work has gone into it that we get a benefit from. Where the focus was on the golds, they weren't, the drill holes were shallower. I mean, the average drill holes on the historic RC was like 50 meters. Okay. Yeah. Right? But it doesn't change the fact that we get the entire sample library. So there was over 4,000 samples. Wow. 3,000 over 3,000 have already had geochem analysis on them. The group that we got it from, fantastic geologists, they kept and preserved every sample plus a duplicate.
Oh, fantastic.
We have all the core, except for some of the RC holes because,
there's no core.
Yeah. We have the core from 23 holes. We have all the data. So what we get to do for the next year is we take all the existing data and take the approach that we use for ore systems exploration. Pull all that together, see whether or not we can figure out where we want to go in terms of looking at this as a CRD plus the Carlin aspect. And, we get to play with a crazy amount of geophysics. I mean, they did graph, they did mag, they did 19 kilometers of IP, like 39 kilometers of IP, 17 kilometers of NSMAT, CSA.
It's all there. You just need to drill it pretty much.
And we that came with it. So, when people are like, oh, is this a great deal? It's like, and the thing is over 10,000 hectares. And it has mineralization, like a significant anomalous mineralization that's 8 by 16 kilometers. And it's running like, the gold numbers at Griffin are like 16 to 26 grams gold. Your silver numbers are upwards of like 300 to 2,000 silver. The zinc numbers are crazy. 3% to 35% zinc at surface. And you're going, yeah, we want this project. So
we'll take it.
I'm obviously very excited about Griffin.
Fantastic. No, good stuff. Like I could tell, it's like I got to reel you in a little bit before we get
too much into the weeds. Yes.
No, not too much into the weeds, but it's like it might be your favorite child coming out of this conversation again if we get too excited about stuff.
Yeah,
right?
well, it's got to be careful.
You got 4 kids here. You got to, you got to love them all equally. Last question. Greedy as we all are as investors, like what's the next press release? What's the next catalyst?
Oh, that would be Medicine Springs.
Yeah, drill
results. I mean, we'll have drill results. We're currently drilling at Medicine Springs. The drill crew that we have out there is absolutely incredible. We are delighted with them and the work that they've been doing. And, the timing will be based off of the assay timeline gods. It's one of those
lab gods.
The lab gods. So we'll see on that, but ideally this fall.
Yeah.
Right. And so we'll have results out of Medicine Springs, and then we'll go from there. We'll probably pivot back to Batopilas because of the results that we just got out of there. It's sort of saying, hey, we should definitely follow up on this. And then we'll be, one of the beautiful things about having 4 projects is we have 2 projects in Nevada. Nevada has this thing called winter.
Oh, they do that?
Yeah, it snows.
Oh.
Whereas in, Mexico, it's a great time to drill when everyone else, when the rest of the peers have to, the rigs are down. So, we'll probably move forward one of the Mexican projects, whether that's Gigi or Batopilas in the winter too.
Fantastic.
So
Lauren, it's fantastic to have you here in the studio.
Thank you so much.
I think it was a fantastic conversation. I really loved it. I love your enthusiasm, obviously.
Well,
so
yeah.
Really, really, what do you call it? Intoxicated. And not intoxicated, like infectious.
Well,
that's the word. Like I like
infectious.
it. Like
infectious.
That's
there
the
we
word
go.
I was looking for, right? We can say it now. We're past the other stuff, so we can say infectious.
Yeah.
So fantastic.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And, I obviously love talking about our projects. So if anyone wants to reach out, I am more than happy to talk their ear off about all the cool things that we're doing over at Reyna Silver.
Fantastic. Yeah, reynasilver.com for more info. You have a really active Twitter account.
Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram,
all of the
email,
above.
all of the above.
Fantastic. Lauren, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Everybody else, thank you so much for joining us here for the introduction of Reyna Silver here on SOAR Financially. I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot more from Lauren in the coming months. Lots happening on that front. More drill results coming out. Personally, I'm a big fan of Nevada. Mexico is super exciting as well. So make sure to follow them, follow us, hit that subscribe button somewhere here. There. Right there. It's that subscribe. It's that square box on it. Make sure to hit that, smash that like button as well. Engage with us. It helps us get more fantastic guests on the program, bring you a lot more knowledge and more in-depth information of those companies and the markets, of course, as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back with more.